We have Mr. Keith Williams, the chairman of the Black Caucus for the entire state of Michigan. Mr. Williams, you seem to have put on a very successful forum. What do you think about it? What are your thoughts?
You know, anytime I can get black folks together for a common cause, talking about issues that affect them, I feel elated because somebody's got to motivate us. I think I can do that. You know, all these candidates want to go to certain apparatuses to get the vote out, but I think the Black Caucus is relevant because we all across the state.
Right. We
got people, memberships all across the state, and we can produce a victory if we just get a little resources and get our respect.
Right. You know, one thing about the candidates that did show up, they're all so-called minorities.
Right.
Your thoughts on that?
That's a good thing. I have no problem with a Muslim brother, a brother from an Indian background, African American. The only person that didn't show up was Gretchen, but they said she had something else to do. But a woman, so it's a good flavor, and I have no problem with a good flavor.
Well, here in Michigan, with the word has been out that the Democratic Party has taken the black vote for granted. She was leading at the polls. What does that say about her absence to speak at this forum that represents the entire state?
I can't speak for her, but I can say this, that she's going to need everybody if she becomes the favorite, and if she wins in the poll and she wins at the ballot box in August at the primary, she's going to need all of us. And so I can't speak for her. I don't know where she's at today, but I just say the ones who came here, they spoke truth to power, and it seemed like they know what they're talking about.
They seem to have some very passionate, right. They seem to have the qualifications, they seem to have the passion to do the job. So whoever wins, I think it'll be a winner for the Michigan Democratic Party.
I feel good about the conversations today.
Yes.
I really do. Because the question I was trying to get to was, how do you take oppressed people and make them whole again? And that's what I was trying, that's what the questions were all about. I went back up from a historical perspective with the Black Panthers 10-point plan. Then I ended it with, what leadership would you rather have for today's environment? And I said 3 of them said Malcolm X.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yes, it was. Listen, thank you very much for a very successful forum.
Thank you. Will the gubernatorial candidates come up front? Okay. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for coming out today. I know we're going to have an interesting conversation about how you're going to improve this great state. Okay, we have Shri Thanedar, we have Abdullah Saeed, am I right? And Bill Cobbs, okay? This is for the governors this time, okay? Let's give them a round of applause. Okay, this is the rules, gentlemen. We're going to have a 3-minute introduction, then we're going to have a 3 minutes to answer questions, and then you get 3 minutes closing statement. Is that okay?
Make the 3 minutes shorter.
3 minutes shorter? Oh, okay. Okay, the first question is, to each candidate, I think I can pass the mic down. Why are you running, and what makes you qualified for this position?
Good afternoon, how are you? Well, my name is Shri Thanedar, and I'm proud to be running to be the next governor of our great state of Michigan. I am a scientist. I came to United States as an immigrant some 40 years ago and became a proud citizen of the United States of America in 1988, 30 years ago. So after getting a PhD in chemistry at the University of Akron, in 1982 I came to University of Michigan and worked there as a scientist for 2 years, and I got a job outside of Michigan. I bought a small company, 3-person company. I grew that company to about 450 employees. So I'm the only gubernatorial candidate that has actually created jobs. And every one of my 450 jobs I created here in America, not a single job outsourced outside of America. 2 years ago, I sold my business because I realized I've achieved my American dream, but the American dream is fading all across America, and American dream is fading more so in Michigan than any other place. And so I felt tremendous gratitude for what America has done for me and the chances and opportunities Michigan has given to me. And so I sold my business, took some money, gave it to all of my 50 employees, and then declared candidacy to run for governor. So I look forward to our discussion of solving Michigan's problems, because I'm a problem solver.
Okay. Okay. Okay, the first question. 50 years after the death of Martin Luther King, how would you describe things currently in America for African Americans?
A good question. And you know, I really don't. When I walk in downtown Detroit, and when I see all the affluence in certain pockets of downtown, and when I walk a few blocks into the neighborhood, I see no difference. I see for decades nothing has changed in the neighborhood. I have seen the politicians, when election time comes, the politicians come and tell us what they think we want to hear. And then they go back to Lansing and begin serving their real masters. And who are their real masters? It's the corporations, and is the lobbyist, and is the special interest. And we see that pay for play culture, where corporations get away with so much. All the loopholes that the corporations get away with, and all of those sweetheart backroom deals that MEDC has with corporations. And when corporations get the city money for public projects, and they're supposed to be hiring Detroiters, what do? They don't hire Detroiters. Right? And what they have done is they has a small penalty which doesn't hurt them. So they build it into their financial plan to pay for that. And that's what goes on. That's the game that gets played in Lansing. And until the next election, they forget about us. They expect us to go vote for them, and then they forget about us and forget about our problems, forget about our schools. Our schools are in terrible condition. They need funding for schools. Our roads are terrible. Our water gets shut off. And our money, the money collected by the city that goes to Lansing, we don't see most of that money coming back to the city. And we see all kinds of effects. And so I'm urging you to, it's time for us to think about saying goodbye to the career politicians. They haven't served us. All they have done is serve their masters. And I have taken a pledge not to accept a single penny from corporation special interest PACs. Not a single penny. And I I will fight for the people of Michigan, and when I go to Lansing, I will only be beholden to you. Thank you.
You got to be respectful. The Black Panthers came up with a 10-point plan. I'm just going to break it down to 6 core issues, and I need from you guys, hear from you, how do you fix these things? Well, I want some specifics. Okay. It says this: how do you take oppressed people and make it better for for those folks who live in those communities? Secondly, how do we get to full employment? Third thing, the robbery of the capitalists who come in our community, the payday lending thieves, and the folks that drive us out. We can't get access to money. Okay? Decent housing. How do you fix that? Decent education for our people. How do you fix that? And lastly, free health care, or making health care accessible to all people. So I want to hear from all of you guys on how you fix those things. Starting with you.
Thank you. That's a very good question. And I think it all starts with education. I want to be the education governor. Yes.
First thing, I'm oppressed.
Yes.
Okay, as young folks, I've been dogged out all my life. So how do you take me and bring hope to me? That's the first question.
Yes. And really, what it all starts with, giving people skills. You know, inspiring people and providing them skill sets. We need to fend for ourselves. And I tell you what happened when I was 14 years old. My father was forced to retire, and my family fell in dire poverty. 4 sisters, 2 brothers, and we didn't know where our next meal was going to come from. There was a time when my mom had to boil a pot of water, throw a little bit of salt in it, and a couple fistful of rice powder. And that was our only meal in a 24-hour period. So I learned, my mama is my role model. She's my hero, and I learned from her how to stand for yourself, how never to give up, no matter how hard things get. And more than that, I learned from her how to be fearless. And education was the ladder to my success, and that ladder is broken today for too many Michiganders. And I want to bring education, I want to bring skill sets. Our state does not have sufficient skilled workers. So whether someone is in prison system or young people, I want to give them skills. The skills need to happen, vocational, technical education in high schools and in middle schools. We need to give people, make education affordable so they can do good for themselves, because every statistic shows that if you have more educated people, the better the people do. So we need to give skills to people. I want to bring entrepreneurship in Detroit and in our neighborhood. I want to teach our young people how to start businesses. And instead of the big corporate welfare that Rick Snyder has done in the last 7 years, I want to take that money and invest in our young people, teaching them how to start businesses. It's the time to beg for jobs is over. What we really need to do is teach our people to be reliant on themselves, give them the skills, give them the inspiration, and have them run businesses and be financially successful. That's what I'll do as an entrepreneur.
The first question is something that I always think about every day. And I ask this question: how do you take oppressed people and make it better for them? We always talk about what's bad in the African American community. The question is, what good is in the African American community, and how can you take the goodness and make it better for all of us? That's my last question. Then I'm going to bring Darwin and Lavon, you're going to come up and ask some questions too.
I think it's providing the role model, providing the inspiration. respecting, providing a skill set, providing access, and the government must give a helping hand to the people for them to succeed. And that starts with education, making education and healthcare affordable. Because education and healthcare is not a privilege, it is a fundamental right of every Michigander. And we need to make that happen. Our country is too affluent. Many European countries which are less affluent than us are able to take care of their people's healthcare needs. So what I believe is that if you work 40 hours a week, you should be paid a fair wage so that you can take care of your family's healthcare needs and family's education needs, be able to put food on the table. That's essential. That's decent. That's something that is human, and that needs to be done. And if you work all your life, when time comes for you to retire, you should have sufficient retirement benefits that you can retire with dignity. And that's the basics. And what we have seen is our cities and our state tinkering with people's retirement benefits. We have seen retirees' benefits being taxed. We have, in the great bargain, which I call it a great steal or a great deceit, we have seen everybody else benefited except the first responders and the people who gave their entire life in the service, and their benefits and their health, retirement benefits were cut. So we need to move away from a government, and we need to go away from a system that works for the rich and works for the ultra rich and works for the corporation and works for the top 1%. We need to have this government work for all of the people. And we need a system that is more inclusive. So that is what I want to work for. I want to bring a progressive Michigan. I want to make Michigan inclusive and work for all of the people of Michigan.
Could you please stand up? Missionary. Okay, LeBron, you're going to ask some questions, and then Darwin.
This is, I want you guys to feel good about something. You're very unique. Michigan is absolutely unique about some things that are happening. I was just observing, you were asking about Detroit or Michigan. Do you know that this is the only state that has a rainbow of people running for governor? Think about it. The only state that had enough sense to say it's okay to step up. But just think about it. They had enough sense to step out here and decide to run. We actually are unique in what we do here in the state of Michigan and Detroit. We gave them the power over the history of Detroit, Michigan, that they are able to sit here and represent the rainbow. I feel good about that. One of the other things that they happen to be in the Democratic Party too. Now we have some issues, concerns, but nobody's running away from the party. I'm not going away. I'm going to be black first. Let me back up. I'll be female first, black second, and I'm going to be a Democrat. With that, we're going to ask the candidates, because we all have issues about the party and want to make a difference. I want to know, how do you propose to unify the Michigan Democratic Party? Right, we all want to know that. So it's on you, Rainbow.
Well, we have to be united as the Democratic Party. For the last 7 years, the Republicans have taken this state too far to the right. We have seen attacks on workers' right with the passage of right to work. We have seen attacks on prevailing wage. We've seen their reluctance to raise our minimum wage to $15 and tied to inflation. We've seen attacks on women's rights. And we got to change it, and we cannot afford 4 more years of another Republican governor. And we must defeat Bill Schuette. And for us to defeat Bill Schuette, we must nominate a candidate on the Democratic side that has an ability and resources to win this election for our party. Our party needs to be open. Our party needs to be, people are tired of the career politicians. The career politicians haven't given us, they have the ones that have brought us and kept us in this status quo. Right. And I am very proud to put and compare my record against the other candidate who has the entire establishment support. So I have and I am working with the people of Michigan. I'm working with the people of Michigan because, the establishment and the party bosses only have 1 vote each. It's the people who has the power to elect the next governor. And so I'm going all over Michigan, talking to people, and I am getting such a good response. When I first announced my candidacy, I was 2% in the polls, and the error margin was plus or minus 4%. And just recent polls have put me within 10%. The last poll put me by 3% above Gretchen Whitmer. So I am excited with all of the support I'm getting. I'm getting a lot of support in Wayne County, and I want to thank Wayne County for your support. And I intend to fight, and I intend to make that contrast very clear in the next 4 months.
Well, when I look out here into the audience, I'm a little bit disappointed that I don't see a lot more 18-year-olds in the audience, because that's where we need to get a lot more voters to come from. So the question I want to ask the candidates is that, what are some of the suggestions that you have to get more young people engaged in the voting process, not just in the general election, but also in the primary election as well?
We need our young people's participation. I totally agree with. But the young people are disappointed. They have seen our political system not work for them. They've seen a political system that's not authentic. They've seen a political system that's same old, that hasn't given us the results that we need. We haven't invested in our young people. We haven't encouraged them. We haven't excited them. So they have been turned off. They are turned off on our political system. They have no faith in our political system. They don't trust our politicians, and they don't expect anything good to come out of it, because we haven't seen big thinking. We haven't seen a vision from our politicians. We haven't seen anything that gave them hope, and we need to turn that around, and that means good people need to come into politics. Politics is very dirty, and a lot of times people that are outside of politics don't want to come in. And when I chose to decide to sell my business and devote rest of my life to public service, I got a lot of warning. People said, don't, it's not as straightforward, and you're going to get attacked, and you're going to get, it's all dirty. And I decided, because America has given me so much, I want to go back and help people. And we're going to help young people by making education affordable. Too many of our young people today walk out of college with huge amount of debt. And our education system needs to be a lot more efficient. It needs to be a lot less expensive. What I want to do is any family that makes $120,000 or less, I want their family to be able to go to college tuition free. When our graduates graduate, I want to make sure that they have a future right here in Michigan. They don't need to leave our state and go someplace else to achieve their American dream. So if they stay in Michigan and work in Michigan, I would have a system where their college debt gets forgiven over a certain time. And if they stay in Michigan and create jobs by starting new businesses, then their college debt will be forgiven even faster. We need to have real solution to the problems to bring the young people back in the interest of politics.
Okay, my next question is that a lot of politicians, once the election is concluded, they disappear. And we don't see them for the next whatever number of years, depending on whether or not if they're going to run again. So my question is, if you do not win this election, what will you be doing for the next 4 years?
Well, I intend to win this election and be your next governor. But if I could not do that, I will run again in 4 years. Because I believe that I have the leadership skills, I have the vision to take Michigan to the next level. Because a governor is a leader. A governor sets the tone for the entire state, and our state has way too many problems. Our education has continuously slipped and is at the bottom 10% in the country. Our infrastructure, the potholes, is a joke. Michigan has become a joke nationally because our roads are so bad, our roads are so dangerous, and our roads is causing Michiganders to spend about $2.5 billion collectively. And most families spend over $550 to fix their cars and their automobiles. We need to work on health care. So there are a number of issues that we need to work on and we need to fix. If I was not so fortunate to win this election, I want to go, now that I've sold my business, I have devoted the rest of my life to public service. I would serve the people, and will serve the people in Detroit, because as I travel and I listen to stories and people's lives, I've seen how people are hurting and how people are suffering. I want to work with the young people and encourage them to get into entrepreneurship. I want to teach my skills. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I want to bring those skills to young people, help them start businesses, help them define and control their own future. And that's what I would like to do.
We talk about youth. We're going to get a youth question, then we're going to start get some questions from you, okay? Is that good? Yes. Get y'all engaged. Y'all look like y'all staring like this. Okay, come on. And let's be very brief with this, the answers.
How's everybody doing today? Good. One quick question, show of hands. Does anybody know anyone that has lost a house? Show of hands, I'm sorry. Does anybody know anyone that has lost a house? Show of hands. Okay, so just about everybody. Okay, so the frame of my question was, I read an article recently by Vice, and they have some very important information in it. Basically, they also stated that Detroit levies the highest property tax rate of any large city in the country, around 3.8. The national average is 1.5. When your tax bill goes unpaid, the city turns them over to Wayne County for collections. The county can charge homeowners up to 18% in interest plus property and penalties and fees. They have about 2.5 years to pay that. If they don't, then their house is taken from them. What I'm asking the governors is, what exactly would you do as far as the relationship between cities and counties to try and keep not just Detroiters, but also Michiganders in their homes?
Well, losing a home is something that I understand firsthand. As I told you, I built a business with 450 employees just before the recession. And during the recession, because many of my clients were small companies that were developing medicine for a group of people that need this medicine that could not be developed by big corporations because there was no big blockbuster profit in them. And I lost my business during the recession. Bank of America came and took my business. And they gave me a box and they said, Shri, if you want to take your personal stuff, feel free to. And I put my children's pictures in the box. And I had won an Entrepreneur of the Year award, and I put that into my box. And when I came home, I learned that my home is going to be foreclosed in 3 weeks. And my wife and I spent all day putting all our stuff in a budget rental truck. And at 6 p.m., we were very tired filling up the truck. But that's the last time we saw our home. And then we started driving that and taking turns. And we drove that budget truck from St. Louis, Missouri to Ann Arbor, Michigan. I arrived in Ann Arbor at 3 a.m. Next day morning, I found a rental space that used to be a lab. I acquired that, I rented that, and restarted my business in 2016. I won that Entrepreneur of the Year award again. So what I've seen is that the city, Detroit has the highest auto rates. Detroit pays more for its water. Detroit pays all kinds of taxes because the city, charges more to the people and give tax breaks to the rich and the big corporations. And as a governor, I would work with the city to bring fairness. One other thing that we need to happen, this city is made for maybe 2 to 3 million people. Right now we have what, 700,000 people here. We need to have more people come into our city so that the city's revenues will go up. And once that happens, then the burden on all of the residents will come down. So I want to first of all, I want to insist that residency, that if you work in Detroit city offices, that you must reside in the city of Detroit. I want to make sure that we make our public schools safer, better. We want our neighborhoods safer. We want to have incentives for businesses to come and set up businesses in the neighborhood to create jobs and empower young people to be entrepreneurs.